What happens when you judge the Prince of Darkness by his appearance? A luxury jewelry store in Beverly Hills was about to learn the most expensive lesson of their lives. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon when the automatic doors of Diamonds and Gold Boutique slid open with a gentle whoosh. In walked a figure that immediately caught everyone's attention for all the wrong reasons. Wild silver hair flowed past his shoulders like a waterfall of rebellion. A faded black t-shirt hung loosely on his frame. Ripped jeans told stories of a life lived on the edge. Those iconic round sunglasses, dark as midnight, concealed eyes that had witnessed 5 decades of rock and roll history. To the pristine sales staff inside this upscale establishment, he looked completely out of place. This was Beverly Hills, where millionaires wore tailored suits and polished Italian leather shoes. Where customers arrived in Bentleys and Ferraris, not looking like they just stepped off a tour bus from the 1970s. The whispers began immediately. Sarah, a 24-year-old saleswoman with perfectly styled blonde hair and a designer dress, nudged her colleague Jake and muttered under her breath, "Security should handle this one." Jake, adjusting his silk tie, barely contained his laughter as he whispered back, "He probably can't even afford our cheapest bracelet." From across the store, another employee shook his head and said just loud enough to be heard, "Wrong store, Grandpa." McDonald's is down the street. But this wasn't just any confused customer who had wandered into the wrong establishment. This was John Michael Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne, the man who had terrorized parents in the 80s, survived more near-death experiences than a cat with 9 lives, and built a $220 million empire from pure chaos and raw talent. The voice behind Crazy Train and Paranoid. The reality TV star who had shown America that even rock legends argue about taking out the trash. The Prince of Darkness himself. The problem was, nobody in that jewelry store had the slightest idea who had just walked through their door. Ozzy moved slowly through the store, his weathered hands clasped behind his back, completely unbothered by the snickers and stares. He had dealt with this treatment his entire life. From the moment he picked up a microphone in working-class Birmingham, England, people had underestimated him. They called Black Sabbath nothing but noise. They said he would never amount to anything. They predicted he would be dead before 30. Here he was at 75, still standing, still rocking, still proving everyone wrong. The laughter grew bolder as he approached the main display case. Diamond necklaces caught the light like captured stars. Rolex watches ticked away precious seconds. Emerald rings sat like tiny green fires in their velvet beds. Ozzy studied each piece with the careful attention of someone who knew quality when he saw it. "Can we help you with something?" Sarah asked, her voice dripping with fake politeness and barely concealed condescension. She spoke the way adults address small children who are touching something they shouldn't. Ozzy pointed to a stunning diamond necklace that sparkled like a constellation under the store's perfect lighting. "I'd like to see that one, please," he said, his Birmingham accent still thick after decades in Los Angeles. Sarah exchanged glances with her co-workers as if sharing an inside joke. She carefully removed the necklace from its case, holding it like she expected him to grab it with dirty hands. "Sir, I should mention that this particular piece is very expensive," she said, emphasizing each word like she was doing him a tremendous favor by warning him. "How expensive?" Ozzy asked calmly. "It's $180,000, she replied, her tone sharp enough to cut glass. She fully expected him to stammer, make excuses, and shuffle toward the exit with his dignity in tatters. Instead, Ozzy nodded thoughtfully and said 4 words that would change everything in that store. "I'll take it." The jewelry boutique fell so silent you could have heard a diamond drop. Sarah's practiced smile froze on her face like a broken mask. Jake stopped mid-laugh, his mouth hanging open like a gate in a windstorm. The manager, who had been watching the interaction with amusement from across the store, suddenly looked very concerned. "I'm sorry, what?" Sarah stammered, certain she had misheard. "I said I'll take it," Ozzy repeated, his voice as steady as bedrock. He reached into his back pocket and produced a card that made everyone in the store take notice. Not just any credit card, but a Black American Express Centurion card. The kind of card that has no preset spending limit. The kind of card that makes bank managers smile and store owners very, very happy. The kind of card reserved for people who think nothing of spending a fortune on a Tuesday afternoon. He placed it on the glass counter with a soft click that echoed through the store like a gunshot. "Ring it up," he said simply. The transformation was immediate and brutal. The same people who had been laughing 30 seconds earlier now looked like they had seen a ghost. Sarah's hands trembled as she picked up the card, reading the name embossed in platinum letters. John Michael Osbourne. The manager rushed over, his face pale as fresh snow. Something about this customer was nagging at him. The long hair, the glasses, the accent, the absolute confidence of someone accustomed to spending money like water. "Sir, are you certain about this purchase?" the manager asked carefully. Ozzy looked at him through those legendary sunglasses and replied, "Dead certain." The card was swiped. The machine beeped once. Approved flashed on the screen in bright green letters. $180,000. Gone just like that, as easily as buying a cup of coffee. But Ozzy was just getting started. He pointed to a diamond bracelet in the adjacent case. "That one too." Then a platinum Rolex. And that, a pair of emerald earrings that caught the light like captured fire. "Those as well." One by one, he selected pieces like he was shopping for groceries. The staff scrambled to keep up, their earlier arrogance replaced by mounting panic. Every item he chose cost more than any of them made in a year. Every purchase made their initial mockery seem more cruel and short-sighted. The manager was now in full damage control mode. "Mr. Osbourne," he said, the name finally clicking into place like the last piece of a puzzle. "We are deeply honored to serve you today." There it was, recognition at last. This wasn't some confused old man who had wandered into the wrong store. This was Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, the man who had performed for millions of screaming fans across 6 continents. The artist who had been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 3 times. The legend who had a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame just 20 minutes from where they stood. The same man they had been openly mocking 5 minutes earlier. As the pile of purchases grew, so did the crushing weight of their mistake. Sarah realized she had just been incredibly rude to a living legend. Jake understood he had mocked someone who could buy the entire store without checking his bank balance. The other employees wished they could disappear into the polished marble floor. The total climbed higher with each selection. 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. Each beep of the register was another reminder of how badly they had misjudged their customer. Finally, Ozzy stopped selecting items. The counter was covered with elegant bags and boxes containing enough jewelry to stock a small boutique. The final total was staggering, $650,000. More money than most people would see in a decade, spent in under an hour by a man they thought couldn't afford a candy bar. As the staff finished processing the paperwork with shaking hands, Ozzy leaned casually against the counter. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but every word carried the weight of 5 decades in the spotlight. "You know, when I walked in here, I heard you laughing," he said. The store fell silent again. Sarah stared at her expensive shoes. Jake suddenly found the ceiling fascinating. The manager looked like he wanted to crawl under a rock and stay there forever. "You thought I didn't belong here," Ozzy continued, his voice gaining strength. "You saw the hair, the clothes, the way I look, and you decided I was nobody. Just some old fool who wandered into the wrong place." He paused, letting the words sink in like rain on dry earth. "I've been dealing with that my whole life. When I was young in Birmingham, people said I'd never amount to anything. They called my music garbage. They said I was a bad influence on kids. They judged me before they bothered to know me." The legendary edge crept into his voice, the same edge that had commanded stadium crowds for 50 years. "But here's what you need to understand, and I hope you never forget this lesson. You never know who's standing in front of you. Could be someone who sold over 100 million albums worldwide. Could be someone who's influenced generations of musicians. Could be someone who's survived things that would break most people and lived to tell about it." Sarah looked up, tears forming in her carefully made-up eyes. "Mr. Osbourne, we're so terribly sorry. We had no idea who you were." Ozzy raised his hand gently, stopping her mid-sentence. "You're not sorry because you know who I am now. You're sorry because you got caught being cruel to someone you thought was beneath you. If I was just some regular old guy with no money and no fame, would you be apologizing right now?" The question hung in the air like smoke from a concert stage. Nobody answered because they all knew the truth. "The next time someone walks through that door," Ozzy said, gathering his bags with the dignity of a man who had earned every ounce of respect, he commanded, "Don't look at their clothes first. Don't judge their appearance. Look at them as a human being. Treat them with basic respect and kindness. Because everyone deserves dignity, whether they're a rock star or just a regular person trying to buy something nice for someone they love." He walked toward the exit, his footsteps echoing in the silent store. The same employees who had laughed at him now stood like scolded children, heads bowed in shame. Just before reaching the automatic doors, Ozzy turned back one final time. A slight smile played at the corners of his mouth, the same smile that had graced 1,000 album covers and magazine spreads. "Oh, and one more thing," he said, his voice carrying that unmistakable mix of humor and authority that had made him a legend. "The next time you see someone who looks like an old rocker, remember this moment. Because you never know, they might just be the Prince of Darkness himself." The doors slid open, and Ozzy Osbourne walked back into the Beverly Hills sunshine, leaving behind a jewelry store full of people who had just received the most expensive education of their lives. In his hands were bags worth more than $500,000. In his wake, he left a lesson about respect, dignity, and the dangerous game of judging books by their covers. Within hours, word of the incident spread through social media like wildfire. The jewelry store found itself at the center of a viral story about prejudice and assumptions. Their Yelp reviews plummeted overnight. People shared their own experiences of being judged by appearance. The tale became a modern parable about treating everyone with respect. But for Ozzy Osbourne, it was just another Tuesday afternoon. Another moment in a life spent proving that you should never underestimate someone based on how they look, especially when that someone has spent 5 decades showing the world that true power comes from authenticity, not appearance. The Prince of Darkness had struck again, not with lightning and thunder, but with quiet dignity and an American Express card. And somewhere in Beverly Hills, a group of jewelry store employees learned why legends never go out of style and why respect should never be rationed based on how someone dresses. Sometimes the most powerful lessons come not from what people say, but from what they do. And sometimes the person you're laughing at today might just be the legend your grandchildren will be talking about tomorrow.